This just in. If you have ever paid for an advert, refreshed your dashboard, and waited for the flood of inquiries that never quite arrived, you have already experienced the gap between noise and impact. For years, marketing rewarded whoever could shout the loudest, repeat the most, and occupy the most billboards. That era made sense when attention was scarce and options were limited. Today, attention is fragmented, choice is infinite, and shouting mostly blends into background static. In the book, This is Marketing, Seth Godin argues that the real work of marketing is no longer about volume. It is about empathy. According to Godin, effective marketing is the generous act of helping someone solve a problem that matters to them, not a problem that happens to increase your quarterly revenue target. That shift sounds subtle, but it's not. It's the move from shouting to serving. So marketing used to follow what I call the fizzy drink formula. You put your brand everywhere, repeat it often enough, and assume familiarity will eventually lead to sales. That approach relied on interruption and saturation. Godin's view is that interruption is now expensive, exhausting, and increasingly ineffective because people have learned to tune it out with remarkable skill. The alternative is quieter and far more strategic. Instead of asking how to get more customers for your product, you begin by asking what product you should build for the customers you most want to serve. That is a reversal many small businesses resist because it requires saying no to large groups of people who might theoretically buy from you. Which brings us to the smallest viable market. Godin introduces the idea of the smallest viable market, which is simply the smallest group of people who urgently want what you make and are willing to spread the word about it. Choosing this group feels risky at first because narrowing your focus appears to shrink your opportunity. In practice, it sharpens your relevance. When you try to appeal to everyone, you drift toward the safe middle. Safe usually means forgettable. When you choose a defined group, you gain the freedom to speak directly to their worldview, frustrations, and ambitions. You stop being a generic option and become a meaningful solution. Here is a simple way to think about this. My product is for people who believe something specific. I focus on people who want a particular result. I promise that engaging with what I create will help them achieve a defined transformation. Specificity is not about excluding others out of spite. It is about designing something remarkable for someone who cannot wait to find it. Here is why worldview matters more than demographics. Many business owners still describe their audience using surface-level traits, such as age, income, or location. While these details have some value, they rarely explain behavior. Two people of the same age and income can make wildly different decisions because they see the world differently. Godin highlights the importance of psychographics, which is simply a way of describing what people value, fear, and aspire to. People buy in ways that protect or elevate their status within their group. Status does not always mean dominance or wealth. For some, status is belonging. For others, it is independence, competence, or respect. When your marketing acknowledges that inner narrative, it becomes far more persuasive. You are no longer selling a service. You are offering a shift in how someone sees themselves and how they are seen by others. As a StoryBrand certified guide and duct tape marketing consultant, I often remind clients that clarity about transformation is more powerful than a list of features. If your message does not clearly describe the change you create, your audience is left to guess. And guessing rarely leads to buying. Which brings us to tension and the decision to act. People change when the tension between where they are and where they want to be becomes uncomfortable enough. Tension is not panic. It is the quiet recognition that the current situation is no longer sufficient. Your role as a marketer is to name that tension honestly and offer a credible path forward. If you skip the problem and rush to the solution, you remove the emotional energy that drives action. When you acknowledge the struggle and articulate a hopeful outcome, you create movement. Stories work because they mirror this journey. A story begins with a challenge, introduces a guide, and ends with a resolution. Marketing that follows this structure feels natural because it reflects how we already process change. But permission is the real asset. One of the most practical ideas in the book is permission marketing. Permission means someone has chosen to hear from you. They have subscribed, followed, or joined because they expect value. Buying attention through advertising can generate short-term results, and in many cases, it should form part of your strategy. However, rented attention disappears the moment you stop paying. Owned attention is built through trust and consistency, and it compounds over time. If you stopped sending your weekly email and people noticed, you have built permission. If your audience forwards your content to colleagues, you have built relevance. These are assets far more stable than a temporary spike in clicks. And remarkable should be built in. Godin's well-known idea of the purple cow suggests that in a crowded marketplace, being average is invisible. Remarkable does not mean outrageous or extreme. It means worth talking about. For a service business, remarkability might look like a clearly defined process, an unusually transparent pricing model, or a guarantee that reduces risk. The key is that it must be designed into the offer from the beginning, not added as decorative copy at the end. And that all brings us to the responsibility of the marketer. Perhaps the most overlooked theme in This Is Marketing is responsibility. Marketing is not inherently manipulative. It becomes manipulative when it prioritizes the company's short-term gain over the customer's genuine change. When used well, marketing connects people to solutions that improve their lives, their businesses, and their communities. That is not hype. That is leadership. For small business owners, the practical takeaway is straightforward. Stop trying to be slightly interesting to everyone and start being deeply useful to someone. Define your smallest viable market. Understand their worldview. Offer a clear transformation. Show up consistently. If you would like help articulating that transformation in one sharp sentence, then start with my free 5-minute marketing fix. Clarity is not loud, but it travels further than noise ever could. You can download it for free in the description below, or you can go to strategicmarketingtribe.com/fix. But what about you? Are you trying to serve too many types of clients right now? I'll go first. I used to describe my work as helping small businesses with marketing, which sounded responsible and inclusive, but did very little to make the right people recognize themselves in my message. Okay, your turn. Where might you be too broad? Let me know in the comments. I'm Vicky Sidler from the Strategic Marketing Tribe, and I post helpful book reviews for small businesses every week.